Welcome back to my channel. Yesterday, the NHL draft wrapped up. It was the rounds 2 to 7. And now we know who has a team to go to and who doesn't. I'm going to go through some of the day 2 highlights. Yesterday I made a video talking about the day 1 highlights. So if you haven't seen that one, go and look at that one so you'll be up to date. All right, so starting off the second round yesterday was Simon Wang, who becomes the highest drafted Chinese-born player in the NHL history. San Jose took him. He is a defenseman, so San Jose had a pretty good draft overall. They get a goalie, they get an extremely great forward in Michael Misa at second overall. And yeah, so San Jose is looking kind of dangerous. And so then after Simon Wang, Blake Fiddler and Malcolm Spence are taken off the board. Malcolm Spence to New York, and Blake Fiddler went to, I forget what team he went to, but he went before Malcolm Spence. Malcolm Spence kind of had a little bit of a slide. He was kind of projected to go like first round, but it isn't the end of the world because he got drafted in the second round. Then in the second round as well, 15th overall in the second round, is Alexei Medvedev, who is a goaltender who was taken by Vancouver. The reason why I bring him up is because Vancouver is one of my teams. He had a pretty good season for himself last year, even though he was the backup for London, and I take any sort of stats from a goalie from London specifically with a pinch of salt, because London is always stacked with great players, so they make it easy on their goaltender. Regardless, he started a lot of games and didn't see a single game in the playoffs or in the Memorial Cup. But I think the experience of just being around a winning culture for him is pretty good for the Vancouver Canucks. And the Vancouver Canucks are pretty good with developing their goalies. Look at Artur Shilovs, and you look at Thatcher Demko. They have been pretty good. Then as the second round comes to a close, and the third round, I bring up Cameron Schmidt, who went in the third round and was picked 30 in the third round. I had him going around the second round, or in the second round, maybe early second round. But I think the thing that hurt him the most is his size. He's under 6 foot, and as a forward in this league, if the Florida Panthers have shown us anything, it is big and strong. And Cameron Schmidt is strong, but he isn't big. So Dallas takes him, and pretty on brand considering that they took Logan Stankoven, who is now traded and is a Carolina Hurricane, but they do have a little bit of a good track record on developing young, small forwards. Then we go to the fifth round, where Quentin Beauchene went, and he's a defenseman. He went to Pittsburgh. I think this is probably just my bias towards the Canadian Hockey League, and that's the league I pay attention to the most. So seeing him slide to the fifth round was a tad bit surprising to me, but it may not have been surprising to other people. So that's my bias in this. So he goes to Pittsburgh. He's a defenseman, as I mentioned, and yeah, he's gonna be a pretty good, maybe like, I want to say he's probably gonna be like a middle pair or third pair defenseman, which pretty decent, but to me Pittsburgh needs better players because they're kind of on a nosedive in my opinion right now. Anyway, then we go to the 6th round, where with the 10th pick in the 6th round, Burke Hood, who's a goaltender from the Vancouver Giants, goes to the New York Islanders. Islanders had a pretty dang good draft. First off, they got Matthew Schaefer. Then they got Keyshawn Aitchison and William Eklund. Pretty sure that was the name. In the 1st round. And yeah, they're looking pretty good with their whole prospect pool. And Burke Hood, you may look at his numbers and you may be like, but his first half of the season was not his greatest, but it was the second half of his season where he really stood out. He became the starter for Vancouver, and Vancouver was comfortable enough where they traded away the older goalie Matthew Hutchinson to Moose Jaw for another goalie who was just the backup. And so, yeah, with another year in the WHL, I see Burke Hood just going up. And yeah, then my 2 last picks I'm going to talk about are in the 7th round. With the 24th pick in the 7th round, the Los Angeles Kings took Will Sharp. He's a defenseman. He was with Lethbridge at the start of the season and then was traded to Kelowna in, I forget what trade he was involved in, but I thought he would go higher just because of the kind of player he was, but he was on, for the majority of the season, a pretty bad Kelowna team who they got to figure something out because they're hosting the Memorial Cup next season and they need to be competitive for that. I don't want to see any 4 or 0-4s from Kelowna next year in the Memorial Cup. Yeah, so Will Sharp goes to LA, as I mentioned, kind of low. I thought it was going to go maybe in the 5th round-ish, but nevertheless, he goes to LA and he gets drafted, so I guess that's the only thing that really matters for a kid. Last pick I'm going to talk about was the second to last pick in the whole draft, Aiden Park, who played in the USHL with Green Bay, but then as soon as his USHL season was over, he got a call from the Calgary Hitmen and were like, hey, do you want to come play? And he was like, all right. So he played, his first WHL game was in the playoffs, so he went with the Calgary Hitmen on their playoff run. He gets picked by Edmonton, and it was kind of funny because I don't know if he was anticipating getting picked, because what he was wearing was definitely not the attire for a prospect at a draft, but he was wearing a sweater and shorts, which he lives in California, so it wasn't that much of a big deal for him to even go there. But yeah, kudos to him for sticking around. He's really taken on that new rule by the CBA where you can wear whatever you want. So good on him. And yeah, that's the end of like my highlights for who got drafted and such. But now I'm going to touch on notables who didn't get drafted, at least for me. I have 3 here that I'm going to talk about. First is Reese Hamilton. He is a defenseman. He was with the Regina Pats this past season for half of it, and before then it was the Calgary Hitmen. He was traded in the middle of the season. What's shocking about this is that he was at that top prospects game for the CHL versus the NTDP. And typically, if you're invited to one of those things, you go in like maybe 4th round or higher, or 5th round or higher. And I was like, that's surprising. Let me take a look at his numbers. He only had 13 points in like 59 C or WHL games this year, which is very underwhelming. And so I can see why he was passed up, but he was like promoted by the WHL themselves and the CHL. He had a whole feature and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's a little bit shocking, but if you just take the last season into account, it's not the greatest look. And so, yeah. Then we have Jonas Wu from the Medicine Hat Tigers, who had a pretty decent season. He's an 06. I don't know if he was a late birthday or not, but he had a pretty good season, and I think he put up like 43 points in like 50 some odd games. But yeah, just did not end up getting picked. But one thing that I will note is just because you don't get picked doesn't necessarily mean your hopes of being in the NHL are done. Like, I think it was Lanny McDonald who made the Calgary Flames last pick in the first round. He said some words of encouragement to the players who were in front of him, and he said, if you don't get picked, it's not the end of the world. So, short and sweet. And then for me was Aaron Opabifo, who, as you can tell, I have a very big bias towards the Vancouver Giants. He got injured halfway through the season with a shoulder injury, I'm pretty sure. And so, yeah, his season was done by December. And I am betting that that's what hurt his chances of being drafted. But he is also kind of like an undersized forward. So, yeah, just some notables from me who did not get drafted. But I think that's going to be the end of the video. I'm going to see what I'm going to do throughout the off season. I'm definitely going to be making a free agent signing video tomorrow, because I think tomorrow's July 1st. So either tomorrow or the day after, I'll make a full recap of the free agents. Notables are Marner and or a notable is Marner. So we'll see where he goes. There were talks about a trade and sign with Vegas. So yeah, we'll see if that ends up happening today or if he actually does hit the free agent market. So that will be it for today. Thanks for watching. Click like, click subscribe, comment. Let me know, what do you think of the draft? Is there anyone that you thought was going to get drafted and didn't? Let me know in the comments. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.